more. I ride for the poor. I stay with the few.
Hood Politics with Eyeballs. The Lessons from the Big Three, Part 1. Now, I know this might feel like a stretch, right? But, you know, let me cook. Let me land the plane. Which one y'all say now? Let me cook, let me land the plane. Actually, I don't really care. Point is, I'm right. Anyway, if you don't know, which would be possibility that a good amount of y'all are not familiar with what I'm talking about, but I would assume most of you do. Over the last about month, the hip-hop world was kind of set ablaze. No Diddy. We're not talking about Diddy. We are talking about Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole. Kendrick has had an on and off feud with Drake, right? Where they have sometimes subliminally and not so subliminally dissed each other. No one really knows where their kind of feud started, but one could argue that as far as hip-hop's concerned, they are one or two or one, either way, the biggest names in hip-hop over the last decade. You know, this is not to erase any Big Sean or Travis Scott or Future, who is probably the most influential. We're not here to erase that. We're just here to make a point. Anyway, Cole has always been, in some senses, despite his loyal fan base, the third place, right? And in a song called First Person Shooter, which is Drake featuring Cole, Cole makes this comment where he talks about him, Kendrick, and Drake being the big three, right? Like, as a reference to the top three and the basketball league that Ice Cube created. And then about a month back, Kendrick, who isn't really on the internet, who is just a very different animal, responds in a song in a song where he's featured by Metro Boomin and Future. And the song is on their album, and his verse, he's eviscerating Drake. Just eviscerating him. And in a part of that song, he makes a reference to Cole's line. So he says, F the big three, I'm the big me. Which is clearly an attack on Cole. And the internet got set ablaze because how hip-hop works, you're supposed to respond when somebody disses you, right? And even though the song was mostly about Drake, Cole being the type of MC that he presented himself as, you know, conscious, educated, you know, positive, but from the streets type artist. Bro, this is hip hop. You have to respond. Now, luckily this isn't the 90s where people die from beefs. Hopefully, and it seems as though it's not going to be like that. Now, fast forward. Since this is part 1, I'm specifically talking about Cole's response. But since then, we've had 2 AI versions of Kendrick, which are not factual, obviously, because they're AI. We have Cole's response, which I'm going to get into more for this point we're making. And we have Drake's response. Drake has had 2 responses, one of which was AI Pac and AI Snoop with him telling Kendrick that he needs to hurry up and say something, for which the Pac estate was like, cut that out, bro. Take that down. You have to understand something about the West Coast. We don't play around when it comes to Tupac. Anyway, that's not the point we're making. J. Cole responds, and his response was on his album. It sounded like it was a very last minute thing. He said his phone was getting blown up, and he responded. Now, as a hip-hop fan, this was not J. Cole's best work. It felt forced, it felt rushed, and I know he's a better rapper than that presented. But like I've said multiple times on this show, you can't argue with J. Cole fans. He puts the song out. The song's out for a few days, taking shots at Kendrick. Some of the shots were, like we said, mid. Others were just not factual. The point is, it wasn't his best day. Cole is in the process of rolling out his new record, so he does this thing live on Amazon Prime. And during his performance, he talks about how he felt like putting that on there was like the lamest thing he's ever done. That he's not that kind of guy. Like, I forced myself because people were gassing me up to say stuff I really don't believe. I just felt like this was lame. So he was like, I'm going to apologize to my boy Kendrick. He's like, I think Kendrick's amazing. That's my friend. He's like, I'm going to lead with my chin. You could take whatever shot you want. I'm going to take it off the album. I just think it was stupid. Now, we as the fans were outraged. And torn. We were torn in two different ways. One way we were torn was the fact that as a man, that's great. He's a mature, maybe hip hop is maturing. Maybe he's mature enough to say, I don't have nothing to defend. Like, I don't feel that way about this dude. Besides, his verse wasn't really about me. I just let people get in my ears, and it didn't sit right with me. He said he was having a hard time sleeping. He was like, I'm not like this. Like, y'all can have it. And as a man, you should do that. If it don't sit right with your spirit, don't do it. Now, as a hip hop fan, I'm like, bro, this is the sport. This is what you signed up for. This the culture. You have removed yourself from the big three, homie. I can't take none of your I'm a shooter verse. I can't take none of your street talk serious. Because when the heat came, and it's like, listen, battling is in fact two grown men writing poems about each other. It's not that serious. But you trying to back out because here's the thing. In the West Coast, we all believe don't nobody want it with the Compton kid. Nobody wants with him. And we were outraged. Now here's where the conversation becomes sophisticated and why I think here's a lesson that we can learn as hood politicians or as people that want to understand politics. Cole making this move makes us zoom the camera out and just say, okay, what are we really doing here? There has always been a sophistication among conversations of people of color, especially around hip hop. There's a sophistication there that if you're not careful, you might miss it. One of which is a conversation that Vince Staples brought up to where he's like, who's making the publishing from this? Like, where's the money going? Who owns these masters? Who is in charge of the DSPs? We're all getting played. And everybody just excited about two black men tearing each other down. Why are we not talking about the fact that our culture is being taken from us and y'all just laughing at us dancing? There's a sophistication there. There's a sophistication in the question of like, what is the competition, the sport? What is the essence of hip hop? And then and that depends on a generational question. Peace, love, unity, having fun. Are we rocking the party? Is it about the jam? Is it about the competition part, the sparring, the tearing down each other? That was always an element of it, but that element was there for the purpose of removing violence because hip hop, it was a street thing, you know? So violence was always a part of it. You had battles to circumvent that violence, right? So guys would have a way and girls would have a way to get their aggressions out, their beefs towards each other out and over with. The problem is if you don't have a beef, then are we just watching, is it really a sport? Are we just watching, this should have been Steph, LeBron, and rest in peace the actual GOAT, Kobe, all on the court just having fun, right? And then all of a sudden Steph is like, I don't want to do it, man. I like you guys too much. It's like, bro, what are you talking about? You're supposed to try to dunk on this fool. It's not personal. On the other hand, again, zoom the camera out. What are we doing here? So here's the question we ask ourselves. Somehow our politics has become, well, we all know how. just a tit for tat, right? It's bar against bar. And I think sometimes when we do that, we lose the thread. So in light of this case in Arizona about abortion, it seemed as though that case had very little to do with abortion, but about scoring points. When you zoom out, now, when you descend back into the particulars, it absolutely has to do with abortion. The issue is the law that they brought together is referring to a law from the year after the Civil War ended. So it's ignoring all of our scientific advancements since then. That's hundreds of years of scientific research around how the human body works. You're just ignoring it because it doesn't help our cause. It just got me to thinking, again, how could I be mad at Cole for doing this? Let's zoom out. That's the right thing to do. If he really felt like in his heart that was the right thing to do it. But I'm upset about it because that's not what you're supposed to do in hip hop. So if your politics is only partisan, you're going to skip over the grand scheme right thing to do because they don't score points for the culture. A lot of times you just want to score those points. And my caution to all of us is to not fall into that trap. Because we are all of both minds. Somebody drops a diss track, you're supposed to diss them back. But what if I don't want to diss them? What if I have no hard feelings towards this person? Listen, if the opposite party, even using those terms, the opposite party scores a point, you're supposed to score a point on your side. Your man got impeached, so I'm going to impeach one of your men. What? What are we talking about here? This state passed an abortion, passed an abortion law, so this state going to make sure they going to undo it. What are we talking here? Have we lost the plot? I don't want us to lose the plot. If it's just about scoring points, then that's one thing. If it's just about making statements, that's one thing. If you just want President Joe Biden to say the word ceasefire, if you just want him to say it, okay, I get it, because that's important. That's descending into the particulars. If somebody dishes you, you're supposed to say these words, if that's what you believe. You can't just say you big mad and then still sell the guy weapons, right? But if you listen to the kids are being specific. We want you to divest. I don't want my tuition money to go towards, I don't care if you get your little hot take. The point is I don't want my money to fund an unjust war. Another unjust war. To fund a genocide. That's what they saying. They're not saying, I demand you say ceasefire. They're saying, no, we demand a ceasefire. There's a difference. If it's just about scoring points, then you just want him to say that. But zoom out. Cole is making us zoom out for a second and say, what are we really doing here? That man chose his own peace. If we say we live and breathe the culture and we live and breathe hip hop, what's wrong with that man choosing his peace? Here's the other side of me. Everything's wrong with that. This is hip hop. If somebody diss you, you supposed to diss them back. We're having fun. These aren't real beefs. Of course they're not real beefs. Maybe I may have personal feelings towards this person, but we gonna discuss that off the mic. This is props. These are points. That's what you do in hip hop. You just go, listen, let me teach you something about graffiti. Part of graffiti was not so much just the level of your skills and your hand styles, because you could do that in a book. You could do that on a wall that's commissioned. Part of it is where you got up. It's the props. It's the danger. It's the visibility of it. You do it for clout. You do it for props. It's for the props. You don't make money off this. No, it's I got up on a spot nobody else could get up on. That's part of the game. Does it matter? Absolutely not. But absolutely it matters. So I think the first lesson in 3 lessons we could get from the big 3 is let's not lose the plot.
Yeah,
Full politics ride.
I ride for the poor. I stand with the few. I stand with the crew. I'm giving out game, investing in change. Y'all know the name.